Remember the Black Hawk helicopter that crashed into a passenger jet at DC's Reagan Airport? Well, now we know who was piloting the helicopter, and the New York Times basically said that the crash was her fault. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the New York Times releasing a lengthy report about a January 29th crash at DC's Reagan Airport between a Black Hawk helicopter and a passenger jet. 64 people died as a result of this crash. May they all rest in peace and prayers out to their family. When the crash first happened, there was quite a bit of finger pointing because remember, Trump had just got inaugurated and he was making cuts, and right away, instantly, you got Doge in effect and we're slashing this and we're cutting that. There was a whole big thing about the FAA. Oh, well, Trump made cuts to the FAA and planes are falling from the sky. I'm scared to fly. I'm not going to go anywhere. Trump is causing us to be in danger. And I'm sitting here like, really? Is that what's happening? I don't think Trump made any cuts to air traffic control. Just because you make cuts to the FAA does not mean it's going to be air traffic control. And beyond that, some of the crashes didn't even happen in the USA. So how was the FAA to blame? Remember this one right here? Remember the plane that was upside down in Toronto, Canada? They were trying to blame the FAA cuts on that. Meanwhile, no air traffic control was cut. And if you're landing in Canada, it'd be the Canadians' version of the FAA that is responsible, if anybody. And I think in this case, it was just horrible weather. You could see you're pretty much in the frozen tundra of ice and snow. Okay, so, I mean, bad weather might be the main thing rather than trying to blame air traffic control. But of course, the narrative was it's air traffic control, it's Trump's fault, all this, that, and the third. Now, the New York Times, which is not a conservative rag at all, it ain't the New York Post, it ain't Fox News, it ain't Breitbart, it ain't ABL talking at you, it's New York Times. They say that this was pilot error. They were told one thing and they did something else. If they were to do what they were told, then the crash probably doesn't happen. Probably, when I say probably, I mean 99.99%. If air traffic control can see what's happening more than you, and they tell you, hey, move over here and you'll be good, and you don't move over there, and there's a crash that happens, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what went on here. Now, before I get into that specific article and reveal to you the pilot, let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to get some clarity, to get some context, because I know January 29th, that was a while ago. We're almost into May of 2025. Can you imagine that? This year has been flying by, and please pardon the pun. I will link to this video and, of course, the article from New York Times in the box if you want to read, see it, hear it without my commentary. If you're on IG, Facebook, etc., visit a link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll this from, when was this? This was back in, it's January 31st, to give you some context. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Pass 25, get the CRJ in flight. Pass 25, pass behind this CRJ.
At 8:47 p.m., an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided with a regional jet in the nation's capital. The crash occurred over the Potomac River near Reagan National Airport, killing 67 people. It's one of the most restricted airspaces in the country, but this particular area has long worried pilots like retired Army officer Daryl Feller.
That's probably the most dangerous spot on all those routes in D.C.
So here's everything we know about why that area is so precarious.
Now, the area is dangerous, it is precarious, but at a certain point, air traffic control, the pilots, everybody knows how to navigate it. And if you're having problems seeing things as a pilot, then that's why air traffic control is there to guide you. But if you ignore them and then something happens, well, whose fault is that?
The 33-mile radius around Washington, D.C. is considered a special flight rules area. Pilots have to have advanced clearance from the FAA to fly here, and aircraft must have altitude encoding transponders, among other things. Within that, there's a 17-mile flight-restricted zone around Reagan Airport, with even stricter rules. And then there are prohibited areas around the White House, National Mall, and the Vice President's residence. But even with the restrictions, it's still one of the most congested airspaces in the country. with civilian, military, police, and other government aircraft constantly operating. To help manage this, DC has designated helicopter corridors, as well as altitude restrictions to keep everyone safe. So what happened during the crash?
It's a system that has to be maintained, and you got to follow certain rules to the T. And if, again, air traffic control sees that you are having a problem, they're going to alert you.
Flight data shows the Black Hawk helicopter flying south down a helicopter corridor over the Potomac River. Military officials say the pilots were experienced and were conducting an annual night training mission known as a check ride. Meanwhile, American Airlines Flight 5342 was traveling north toward Reagan National. It was originally supposed to land on runway 1, with a flight path that goes up the river. But at approximately 8:42 p.m., minutes before landing, the jet was told to use a different, shorter runway.
Check runway 33.
Yeah, we can do 33 for Blue 6342.
Change to turn runway 33 clear to land.
Runway changes aren't unusual, but it meant the plane had to bow right before turning sharply left and cutting across the helicopter corridor. A move that pilots say makes the jet hard for helicopters to see, especially at a low altitude.
Confusion with ground lights is what it's called. When you're flying south and you get just to the east of the airport, off to the left is southeast DC. And so there's a lot of city lights, street lights. I-295 is over there, so there's a lot of vehicle lights. What happens is low-flying aircraft will get lost in the background of all those city lights, and you can't see them if they're moving towards you, away from you, or you can't see them at all.
There are also questions about staffing of air traffic control that night and whether more people should have been working.
See, there we go. And that was a narrative at the time. That was okay, you're cutting FAA, you're cutting air traffic control. That's not what this was at all. This is not what caused the accident. And we'll get to that in a moment.
Another potential problem was altitude. Helicopters are supposed to fly below 200 feet in this part of the corridor, but flight data shows the helicopter may have risen above 300 feet as the airplane was descending from 400 feet.
So you already can see that the helicopter was doing something it shouldn't have been doing. You're not at the right altitude. You're not following air traffic controls, orders, requests, demands, whatever it is.
Officials say data from the aircraft's recording device still needs to be investigated to confirm. But
now I'm gonna pause it right here. There's more to it, but we got to keep moving. We have to keep moving. Now, this is the expose from New York Times. It says missteps, equipment problems, and a common but risky practice led to a fatal crash. New details revealed by the Times show that failures on January 29th before an Army helicopter crashed into a jet near Reagan National Airport were far more complex than previously known. Now, this is a very long article. Let me zoom in right quick so you can see this. If you want to listen to the article, like just hear it and not read it, it's 26 minutes to listen. So imagine you reading it and then pausing at certain points, taking notes. It'll take you a long time to read this. Okay. Now, shout out to Savannah Hernandez for reading this and then getting down to the nitty gritty. Savannah Hernandez, one of the best reporters in the world, one of the best. Shout out to her. But here's what she writes on X, formerly Twitter. Remember the DC helicopter crash in January that killed 64 people, including 12 children? Turns out the female pilot who was flying was given multiple warnings and was directly told by her male instructor, co-pilot, to turn the opposite direction of the passenger jet to avoid a collision. She ignored him and flew straight into it. Now, that's her right there. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Okay, I'm not trying to attack her. I'm not trying to attack the deceased. I'm just calling the reality. I'm just reporting what I read. Okay, let's look at this right here. Here is the big excerpt that we need to just focus on. 2 seconds after the controllers cut out instruction about passing behind the jet, Warrant Officer Eves replied, affirming for the second time that the Black Hawk saw the traffic. Pat 25 has an aircraft in sight, request visual separation. Now, what does that mean? Back when this whole thing was going on, that term, visual separation, meant I got it. I can see it. I don't need you guys to guide me. So don't worry about it. I'm good. Now, let's keep on going. VisSep approved, the controller replied. It was their last communication. The Black Hawk was 15 seconds away from crossing paths with the jet Warrant Officer Eads then turned his attention to Captain Lobach. He told her he believed that the air traffic control wanted them to turn left toward the East River Bank. Turning left would have opened up more space between the helicopter and Flight 5342, which was heading for runway 33, as you saw a little while ago, at an altitude of roughly 300 feet. She did not turn left. So all this about, oh, well, it's Trump cutting the FAA, cutting air traffic control. He hates people. He wants to see us die in the air. I don't want to fly anymore. This was pilot error. Listen, the co-pilot was telling her, hey, you got to make a move. Air traffic control said, hey, make a move. I got it. VISEP, don't worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. And what happened? Crash. I read 64 passed away. 67, whatever, 64, 67, it doesn't really matter. It's way too many people. And it was totally preventable. Totally preventable. Look, as I close, I want to say this. Again, rest in peace to all those who passed away. Prayers out to the families, but this was preventable. Am I going to say that it was because it was a female pilot? I'm not saying that. I'm not going to say that, but I guarantee you one thing. In the comment section, you're going to have men and women saying that maybe a woman shouldn't be doing something like this, something so important. This is why it's hard to have a woman become the president. I don't know why they keep trying to run Hillary Clinton and Kamala, people like this. It's not going to work. They're going to try AOC. Good luck with that. A Hispanic woman, you're going to have Hispanic women protesting against her. Protesting. They understand. Again, it's not me saying it. It's not me. Don't say, ABL, you're a misogynist. I'm just saying, women have emailed me about stuff like this and said, I would never vote for one. I would never have her do something very important, president, something like maybe governor, senator, mayor, something like that. Okay. But really important, finger on the button, lives at risk? I think not. And I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your opinion about the New York Times revealing what happened here? That this was pilot error. It was not air traffic control being understaffed. It wasn't Trump's fault. It wasn't anything. How you feel about the male-female dynamic? Again, I'm not saying it's because she's a woman. I'm just saying she did not listen to the recommendations, the advice that she was given. And we have at least 64 dead as a result. Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. This was pretty much what I thought it was. You know, the air traffic control, I didn't believe that from the beginning. This was an accident caused by a person. And it's really sad. It's really unfortunate. And I hope that this does not happen anymore. If there's a situation where you got air vehicles crossing paths, air traffic control says, hey, make it bust a move, make a maneuver. Maybe, just maybe they should listen. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.